She made history, but died alone. Hattie McDaniel, the first black actress to win an Oscar for her role as Mammy in Gone with the Wind, should have been celebrated as a national treasure. But at the end of her life, Hollywood abandoned her, the community that once supported her, and the once bright mansion fell silent. The house that once rang with laughter, jazz, and where the likes of Clark Gable and Lena Horne toasted champagne, now has only cracked walls, broken windows, and tangled vines. A ghostly relic, like the fate of the woman who once made it. What took a woman from breaking the color barrier to being erased from the stage she once dominated? What you are about to hear may change the way you view Hollywood forever. Hattie McDaniel was born in Wichita, Kansas, in 1893, the youngest of 13 children, only 7 of whom survived childhood. From the moment she was born, she was a battler, premature, weighing just over 3 pounds, so small and frail that it was doubtful she would survive. Her mother, Susan, had suffered unimaginable loss, but still managed to raise her children amid poverty. In the cramped home, Hattie was a light. She sang, she danced, she told stories so much that her mother sometimes had to slip a nickel into her hand just to get a moment of peace. As she grew older, Hattie and her older sister, Ada, formed the McDaniel Sisters Company, a small touring group. Their stage might have been a shanty pub or a town hall, but it was where Hattie could be herself, strong, witty, and charming. Her comedic flair and sharp delivery were evident early on, foreshadowing her eventual path to becoming the iconic Mammy. But even as her career began to take off, darkness continued to surround her. At 18, Hattie married Howard Hickman, a love that she thought would be a safe haven. Then, just 4 years later, she became a young widow. Before she could get over her grief, Hattie lost her brother Otis, her greatest financial and emotional support. In those years, she was both the weak youngest child of a poor family and a woman who had experienced loss early on. And that was just the beginning. After the deaths of Howard and her brother Otis, Hattie struggled to get back on her feet. She took small roles, sometimes a few lines on the radio, sometimes singing in local shows. In 1922, she gave love another chance, marrying George Langford. But fate was cruel. Just 3 years later, Langford died of a gunshot wound. Each loss seemed to push Hattie further away from her artistic dreams. Then, the biggest blow came in the fall of 1929. When the stock market crashed, Hattie was touring with Florence Ziegfeld's Showboat Chorus. As soon as the news broke, Ziegfeld cut staff, fired her, and left the artist stranded in Milwaukee, no work, no money, no way back. Backed against the wall, Hattie had to swallow her pride and take a job as a bathroom attendant at Club Madrid, a job no one thought would be a stepping stone to a return to the stage. But one night, when the singers left early and the club needed a finale, she stepped up. St. Louis blues rang out from her voice, deep and fierce, filled with all the pain and strength she had ever known. When the song ended, the audience stood up and applauded. That very day, Hattie was signed to perform. But the glory was short-lived. The Great Depression swept in, Club Madrid closed, and Hattie was back to square one. This time, she scraped together every last penny she had, bought a one-way bus ticket to Hollywood, believing that if there was a place for her, it would be in the movie capital. Little did she know, the road ahead would lead her to both glory and the toughest battles of her life. Hollywood was booming in the 1930s. Talkies, color, and epic stories captivated the nation. Hattie McDaniel quickly found a niche, albeit modest, in comic-made roles on radio and the silver screen. In real life, she still had to work as a maid to make ends meet, but the experience taught her a bitter truth: audiences and producers were more accepting of her in an apron, both on and off screen. In 1937, word spread of producer David O. Selznick's Gone with the Wind project to Hollywood. Every black actress wanted the role of Mammy, Scarlett O'Hara's loyal but strong-willed maid. Competition was so fierce that even First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt nominated her own maid. Hattie took a different tack. She used every connection she had. Rumor has it that her future co-star Clark Gable gave her a secret endorsement, or that her brother, Bing Crosby, recommended her. Whatever the truth, when she entered the audition room, Hattie wore her maid's uniform, got into character, and made an indelible impression. Selznick signed her on the spot. The role of Mammy gave Hattie a place among the likes of Vivien Leigh and Clark Gable. And when the film was released, audiences were captivated. Hattie's Mammy was more than a maid, she was the spirit of the Terra family, both sharp and warm, and her charisma overshadowed the main characters. In early 1940, Hattie McDaniel became the first black person to be nominated for and win an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress. It was a historic victory. As she took the stage, her hair dotted with white gardenia flowers, her eyes brimming with tears, she said, "This is one of the happiest moments of my life." But even on that night of glory, the cold reality remained. Hattie was seated at a separate table, away from her co-stars, and when the cast went to a club to celebrate after the award ceremony, she was turned away at the door. The woman who had just made history was not allowed a place at her own celebration. The glory had arrived, but its shadow was still heavy. And Hattie was about to enter a period in her life where personal tragedy would strike more fiercely than ever. After Oscar, Hattie McDaniel thought she could give herself a break to find her own happiness. In March 1941, she married James Lloyd Crawford, a real estate broker. At 48, she believed she could build a family that her busy career had never allowed. In 1945, the good news came: she was pregnant, which seemed like a miracle to Hattie, who had lost so much. She bought baby clothes, decorated her nursery, and dreamed of a family. But joy quickly turned to tragedy. Doctors diagnosed her with pseudocyesis, a rare condition that caused her to show symptoms of everything except the baby. The nursery was now a painful reminder. Hattie broke it off, and her marriage to Crawford fell apart that same year. Then came Larry Williams, a dashing, sweet-talking interior designer. They were married just a few months later. But behind the glamorous exterior, Williams quickly revealed his true nature: jealous, controlling, and exploitative of his wife's finances. He even wanted to manage her career to gain access to her bank account. Hattie flatly refused. The marriage ended quickly, but left deep wounds. At one point, she confessed that, during their time together, she lost all appetite, lost weight rapidly, and could not concentrate on work. After the divorce, Hattie left Williams exactly $1 in her will, a sarcastic farewell from a woman who had been worn down both mentally and professionally by him. From then on, Hattie decided that she would not let any man get too deep into her life again. But even when the door to love closed, she still held on to one thing: the mansion on Sugar Hill, which would become a symbol of both light and darkness in her life. In 1942, at the height of her career, Hattie McDaniel bought a 17-room mansion in Sugar Hill, a wealthy black neighborhood in Los Angeles, dubbed Black Beverly Hills by the press. She transformed it into a light-filled palace, exquisite furnishings, Dalmatians running at her heels, and every room imbued with the spirit of an artist who enjoyed life. Hattie's parties became legendary. Jazz music echoed, laughter continued into the night, and guests could include Clark Gable, Bing Crosby, Lena Horne, or Paul Robeson. In that vast estate, race was no longer a boundary. But the fun was not always welcome. Many white neighbors objected to the arrival of wealthy black residents. Hattie did not back down. She and other homeowners sued and won, helping to partially break down racial housing barriers. However, time and fate were not on her side. In the 1950s, terminal breast cancer forced Hattie to leave the spotlight. On October 26, 1952, she passed away at the age of 59, leaving behind only about $10,000 to $15,000 in assets, a modest figure compared to her brilliant career. The Sugar Hill Mansion, once a symbol of victory and pride, then fell into new hands, gradually deteriorated, and was abandoned. Cracked walls, broken windows, and creepers covered it as if to hide the parties that once made Hollywood admire. Hattie McDaniel left behind more than just roles. She left an indelible mark in Hollywood history, the first black person to win an Oscar, opening the door for generations of actors to come. In her will, she bequeathed the award to Howard University, a spiritual gift to inspire young black artists. But fate was ironic. Due to unpaid debts, the Oscar was confiscated by the IRS, then returned to the school. In the 1960s, 1970s, it mysteriously disappeared, leaving behind one of the most heartbreaking disappearances in film history. What she faced, racism, prejudice, and rejection from her own community, could not erase the truth. Hattie McDaniel lived and worked with faith in her talent. She once wrote directly to NAACP leader Walter White, who publicly criticized her. "God has given me talents you don't know about, and they are not as ordinary as you think." The message she left for future generations is not in the parties or the luxurious mansion, but in the way she faced injustice, not always winning, but always maintaining dignity and laughter. Hattie McDaniel died with a simple wish, but even in death, she was rejected because of her skin color. She rests in Rosedale, with gardenia flowers in her hair as white as the night she made history. She lived and fought through battles few dared to face. She may never have stood fully in her rightful place, but her legacy still resonates. If this story resonates with you, share it in the comments so Hattie is not forgotten. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell to keep the stories behind the halo together.